Today we're talking about 14 C Beauty eyeshadows. I feel like when we talk about Asian beauty, a lot of times people just assume the pigmentation isn't there and the color story wouldn't be fun. But I found that very much not true when it comes to C Beauty. Not that like it is true with the other Asian beauty, but you know, especially not true for C Beauty in my opinion. So today I'm gonna talk about 14 of the C Beauty eyeshadows that I have purchased recently, and they all fall into the category that it is very much pigmented and most of them are fun colors. The main brands here are CHEERYEP, Narimi, and Choiz Beauty, and we also have other two that are like I only got one for each, which is Kaleidos, which I think is the more inclusive brand from C Beauty. They are mostly deeper skin tone friendly. And we also got a brand called Drummo. So let's not waste our time and get started right from the brand CHEERYEP. I got 3. 2 are their palettes, and 1 is actually their singles that's put into a palette. And I found these to be very much the different formulation. So while I'm talking about these eyeshadow palettes, I will have swatching or like just application and swatch footage going over my voice. And for the CHEERYEP 2 palettes, I did a lot of looks. So when you look at these type of bigger palettes, I just feel like I don't know what to do with this. So I basically used it in this way. There's 12 shades here, right? So I treated them as 4 quads, like this 4, you know, this, and this 4, and this 4, and this 4. And it totally works that way as well. Like, I feel like you can kind of tell they are like a different color story for each section. And you can even go like this, you know, this 4, this 4, this 4, this 4, and this 4. And of course you can also use this palette just freely. But if you don't know how to create an eye look using a bigger palette, I found this quad method very easy to approach. So I did 4 looks, I think 4 looks with this palette, and I'm gonna show you all of the 4 looks. First of all, I think this palette is very pigmented, and it is very easy to blend. And I don't find much fallout, which is pretty rare for today's collection, because a lot of the palettes today are probably similar to what's called pressed pigment. They're super loosely pressed, and you have to be super aware of how much product you're picking up and the pressure you're using when you're picking the products up. But for this one, I don't find me to be worrying too much about the pressure I'm putting on the pan when I'm picking up products, because they are on the, I don't want to say like super formally pressed, but I think they are just middle pressure pressed. So it's not hard to take product from the pan, but it's also not very loose so that you feel like products are flying everywhere. I personally really love this formulation. You got all of this neutral to cool toned, which is another thing I found about C Beauty is it's very easy to find neutral and cool toned colors, whereas I feel like when it comes to Western makeup, even though sometimes they say it's cool tone, it's very much just neutral. And they say, when they say it's neutral, I feel like it's warm. It's just not extremely warm, but still on the warm side. So if you want the true cool tone, not me gatekeeping what is cool tone, right? Everybody has their standard to classify what is cool tone and what is not. But for me, I'm pretty strict with this, and I think this is a true neutral to cool tone, and there isn't a single warm shadow here. I feel like the warmest probably is the glitter in the end, but it's like a neutral gold. It's like cooler gold shadow. It's not even yellow. So yeah, if you struggle to find a true neutral to cool tone eyeshadow and this color story speaks to you, I do personally recommend this because the formulation is super nice. And the other reddish one, I think this one is called like Admiring or something like that, and this one is way warmer. And can you get what I'm talking about? Even when we're talking about warm eyeshadows, I don't think this is extremely warm. The brown in this palette is very much still neutral. It's like neutral to warm but still leaning neutral type of thing. I really like that about C Beauty. And the formulation has nothing different with the previous palette. It's kind of firmly pressed and it's still kind of easy to pick up products. And they give you a gray matte eyeshadow in this palette, which is pretty unique. I don't know if I used the gray shade, probably because I believe I used this palette in the quad method as well. There's nothing bad to say. I love this palette as well, and I think for me, my warm olive skin tone, this palette is probably slightly more wearable than the previous palettes. And the third one, which is what I have on my eyelid right now, is their singles put into a palette. I think this is a whole collection, and I just bought the whole collection and put them in one palette. And I found this to be 3 different formulations, even though the numbers are linked. These 4 are like flaky glitters that's cream. These are not powder, these are creams, so you would not get any fallout when you're applying them. Like, I don't think you can see any fallout, even though this is pretty glittery, right? And I also see some like duochrome type-ish thing happening. And the center is still glitter, but they are powders, and I don't see much shift happening. They are like just your normal glittery shade, and the bottoms are, I think, satin shades. You can see some glitter particles, but when you're blending on the eyelid, it basically just looks kind of matte, you know, just a satin finish. I think this probably better called satin or like a sequin. I believe some brands did this in the past. They put glitter in matte shadow, so if you just blend that on your eyelid, you don't see the glitter, you just see the matte, and the glitter is supposed to be helping with the blend or something like that. This is close to that, but it doesn't have like big glitter particles. It's all super fine and blended, so it just looks satin. And I actually really like this. I think even the middle row, you know, it's a powder, it doesn't really have that much fly away. But the bottom row is on the very much loosely pressed side, and it's sheerer than their palette, like the pigmentation wise. So I think these singles are a different formulation than the palettes. So I don't know which one I would recommend because I think they are all great. But I think if you want to choose your own color, I think these are good. But if you want more cost performance, easier to cooperate, I think the palettes are better. It's just the palette don't have the shifty tones to it, and you got a lot of choices. And that's from the brand CHEERYEP. Continue with one of the most fun brand today, Narimi. I have 4 here. I think 2 of these are newer shades, I think, and 2 of these are older shades. Let's start with the neutral, the most boring one. I think this is more of a older palette. This palette very much reminds me of the Urban Decay Naked palette, but it's just all matte. But the colors, the color combination is very much reminding me of the Urban Decay Naked one. And it's all basic shades, and still, in this palette, I don't think you can spot a super warm color here. I think the only one that's warm is the third to last color here, but even this one, I think it would be classified as neutral in a lot of Western brands. But I love this palette. It's on the looser side and it's extremely pigmented. Even with these slightly pastel-y colors, you don't even need much of a base. Just normally apply it on your eyes. It's so pigmented. I think overall for this brand, I don't really recommend somebody without much of eyeshadow skills. I am someone that without much of eyeshadow skills, so sometimes I struggle a little bit with these, either with color combination, which doesn't apply to this shadow because it's just neutral, you know. But with other more fun color palettes, I feel like I probably, if I'm talking about on a daily, I would only use one out of the whole palette, or at maximum 2. The formulation, you have to be very careful because they are extremely pigmented and they're kind of loose. So you have to get used to work with their formulation. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say you need some eyeshadow skill to incorporate these colors? I struggled a lot to trying to think of a eyeshadow look can incorporate majority of the colors. I think I did an okay job, but I probably wouldn't use that much of a colorful shades on a daily basis. So again, I think if I'm reaching for this palette, it would be only 1 or 2. My opinion stays the same. You have to be very careful with this formulation. If you see the swatch is very clean, it's because I'm being extremely careful with these shades. When I'm swatching these, I was like, oh, that was too much. Like, that's a little bit exaggerating the situation, but you know what I mean. Like, I have been like very careful, and I'm like, okay, that must be enough. You know, that type of thing. And you can see the swatch being pretty clean is because I am being super careful. If I just use the normal pressure, I'm not even going hard, just normal pressure that you would swatch an eyeshadow, you would create such a big mess. Your finger will take a full week worth of product with that single swatch, and it's just gonna scramble everywhere. So be careful, you know, just note these are extremely pigmented shades, and I think they actually did a very great job with the formulation, because usually these are hard to formulate shades, right? Especially these pastel-y shades. I think in this angle you can see the shades better. It's a very vibrant shade because the camera is washing it out. It can like make the shades look more realistic. But in this way you can see it a little bit better. It's a very neon palette. And the fact that they can make neon pay off that great up front on your eyelid without much of a eyeshadow base is actually kind of hard to do. And all of the footage, I don't have a proper eyelid primer on. It's just my foundation smeared on my eyeshadow and set with my normal face powder. So it's nothing beyond. It's purely just eyeshadow. This is more of like a more calm down color, but it's still very colorful, right? The glitters in all of these palettes are super intense. This is really not for the weak, okay? It's only for the people that want to play with colors and is not afraid to use color on their eyelids and know what they're doing with the eye looks and know what they're going for. To be honest, I don't think I'm quite there yet. I need way more practice to reach that level. But I did have fun with this palette still. It's just I don't think I'm gonna use these palettes super often. And if I'm gonna use them, again, it's probably only 1 or 2 shades out of a palette. But I don't think that should be like a complaint about these formulations and these colors, because it's intended to be fun and super colorful and super pigmented. So in that, I think they're great. It's just, is this your thing or not? The last palette, I think I love this color combination the most. I think it's like very cooling, summery type of thing. The pastel colors just look so pretty to the eye. I don't think I have showed the full potential to you. But let's take a break with the swatch and application. I just look at this pan. This is when you're just putting a normal pressure to the pan. I was putting normal pressure and it take off a big chunk of the eyeshadow. I don't know if you can see. And I have to press the back with my finger. So be extremely careful with this formulation. It's super fragile. And I bought from their store on Taobao, and they package these super carefully, so it was arriving safely. But I have heard a lot of people with their sad stories how their eyeshadow from Narimi arrived broken. If you are gonna purchase a palette from this brand, maybe just buy one. Don't buy a couple, in case you are buying from somewhere that is not packaging the product very safely and it's gonna arrive broken. But for me, I was safe with all of the palettes, so I'm grateful. I don't have anything to complain. Okay, that's the second brand, Narimi. And we got the third brand, Choiz Beauty. I think they just recently gone through either a reformulation or repackaging. I don't know if the formulation has changed, even though I have both version, but I just don't have the same shade of both new and old versions, so I am not sure, you know. Let's start with the old version because it's just so fun. You know, there are bugs on the packaging and the packaging has like fun designs. It reminds me of Chantecaille. I think their formulation and their vibe is very different, but I feel like the packaging just reminds me of that. I'm not a big fan of bugs actually. I hate bugs, but bugs on makeup packaging is something else. And I love it. And the formulation, let's talk about the pink moth. I really loved this palette. It's 6 shades. You probably don't think you're gonna create much fun from this, but the looks I created from this palette are actually really cute and fun. This is very similar to the Narimi formulation. The mattes or all of the shadows are extremely pigmented and extremely loosely pressed, so be careful and be mindful when you're picking up the products. And you don't need much at all with any of the shades, but I personally love it, and especially this almost duochrome shade. Isn't that just pretty? I don't know if this shadow changed with their new formulation, I don't know, but I love it. I love the old formulation. Yellow Bee, I think. This palette is also very fun. The color doesn't really scream bees that much other than this yellowy metallic shade. If you just cover this shade, it's like a very neutral palette actually. But nonetheless, I love this formulation. It's no different than the other one I showed you. It's very pigmented, and I have to say, I sometimes struggle a little bit blending this formulation. It could be the formulation, but it also could be me. I'm just not used to the eyeshadows being this pigmented. So again, I think these are formulations for the people who at least have some decent eyeshadow skills. For me, that I got like very average to below eyeshadow skills, I sometimes struggle a little bit. But the thing is, I just throw the metallic on and it just looks very beautiful. And even if there's slightly of a unevenness, it just looks grungy rather than messy. I love this palette. And it's so small. I don't know why they decide to put them in a different packaging, but I love the old packaging. So now let's talk about the new packaging, and immediately you can see the packaging got a whole lot more boring. I mean, I love this palette because they're convenient. They are not bulky and it's very easy to store, and it's kind of easy to tell which one is which because they have different colors with the cardboard. But I way prefer the old packaging. How fun is this? So if you can just find the old one, I might suggest you to buy the old one because they're just fun. But with the formulation, let's talk about this one. It's probably called Soft Sunshine or something like that. This is a more of a brown neutral tone eyeshadow. But my thing with this palette is you're gonna think it's suitable for my skin tone, right? It's not gonna be too dark. If I say this is too dark for me, you probably wouldn't believe because it's literally just eyeshadow. But I really felt like this was too dark for me. Even though it's just an eyeshadow palette, it shouldn't be an issue. But I feel like these are for people from medium and up when it comes to skin tone. And I feel like if you have like tan skin or a little bit deeper than tan, you can still use this. The colors, the mattes, show up, or not even just the mattes, all of the shades show up a little bit deeper than I thought it would have. So when I finish my eye look, I intended to be like more of a neutral day-to-day eyeshadow, but it turned out to be super smoky. I think I might just have to be a little bit more careful with the eyeshadows, but at the same time, why is it so dark? These are less powdery than these ones, so I guess maybe they reformulated the formulation, so now it's less powdery and less kick off, even though I still would say it's a little bit patchy sometimes, same with this one. But I also think that could be just my skill issues, and also this one to be a little bit too dark for me. It's really depending on you. I feel like if you just have medium and up skin tone, you wouldn't have any issue with this palette. Actually, you might actually love this palette. The other one is probably called Moonlight. I don't know. I'm translating directly. This one is also pretty dark. Especially if you just cover these two shades, it's pretty dark, right? This is a highlight shade and it's a glitter, so basically the base of your look is gonna be decided by these four eyeshadows, and they are very much cool toned and they are very pigmented. However, I somehow didn't feel like this one is too dark, even though some shades look even darker than the previous palette. I don't know, I probably need to use these more to put a final conclusion, but I think these are still super pigmented shades, less powdery than this one, but still a little bit, like a tiny little bit looser priced than these CHEERYEP ones. My conclusion with this palette is it needs some skill to be able to handle it. All matte palette, and you can see it's majority of them are like purples and pinks, and these are again extremely pigmented, but they are not super powdery. They are a little bit powdery, like you can see here, but they are not like super messy, right? I did pay attention to how much I'm picking up, but again, among all of the powdery eyeshadows, these are on the slightly less powdery side, and they are again very pigmented, and they are actually very easy to blend. I feel like somehow these are easier to blend than the previous palettes I just talked about from this brand, Choiz Beauty. So I feel like if you love mattes and you want to start with this brand, you know, try something, maybe you can try this one, because again, I found this one a little bit easier to handle than the other ones. I like this one, and even though it's pretty colorful, but I feel like it's neutral colors, you know, neutral colorful colors, so they are a little bit easier to handle for somebody like me that don't have much eyeshadow skills. And the last two, let's go with the more boring ones and leave the slightly more fun one in the last. This one is from Kaleidos, and I actually really like Kaleidos eyeshadow formulations. Pretty similar to all of the other brands that we talked about today. They are extremely pigmented, and it's not super powdery, but there's a little bit powderiness to it. Like you can see, there's a little bit messy thing happening on the pan here, but it's not like unmanageable, and I just love the packaging. Like, it's so pretty. Their glitters are extremely strong. You have to be very careful with these. But I personally love their formulation. It's just, again, a formulation that I have to be paying attention to. I can't be, you know, just slap them on. I have to be strategic because how pigmented they are. But the formulation is great. And the last one is from the brand Dremel. I said these to be fun, but it's actually like a neutral palette. But I personally think this neutral palette is pretty fun. They are very neutral, leaning to cool. Again, I think it's very easy, or like much easier, to find neutral to cool tone shades from C Beauty, and this one being one of them. And I think it's kind of hard to find all matte eyeshadow from Western makeup brands with this color range, you know? Even some palettes like the Mario one, they claim them to be neutral, and it is neutral, but I think, again, I'm here gatekeeping neutral and cool tone eyeshadows, but I think this is a true neutral. You know what I mean? I feel like the Western neutral palettes are a neutral warm palette, not actually in the middle. It's in the middle of a warm palette. So if you really want a neutral eyeshadow, or you are like a cool toned person that is very hard to find neutral to cool toned eyeshadows, just look into C Beauty brands, and I think this is a great eyeshadow for people from fair up to all the way up to maybe even tan skin. Even though I feel like if you're tan, maybe there are like 2 or 3 shades that is hard to use, but from fair to medium skin tone, I think you could use this palette, and I found this to be a very easy to use formulation. Like, it's pigmented, but I don't have to be extremely careful with these. I would be just fine with my normal way of applying makeup. So my recommendation is, if you want just your boring basic eyeshadows like I do, I recommend the CHEERYEP palettes and the 2 mattes from either Narimi or Dremel, or actually this one as well from the Choiz Beauty as well. If you like colorful colors, you know, including mattes, like not only glitters, if you want colorful mattes and glitters, I think Narimi is very great. And if you have like the eyeshadow skills we're talking about, right? And if you want like fun glitters, you know, the duochromes, I think CHEERYEP single ones can give you what you want, and there's a lot of different choices that you could have from them. The Choiz Beauty, I feel like if you have deeper skin tone, maybe it's nice to try these, because like I said, I almost feel like they are a little bit too dark for my skin, and I'm light medium. I'm not even that light among East Asians, but somehow when I use this, I feel like I should be darker to use some of these formulations. The Kaleidos, it's nice, but I just don't feel like it stands out among all of the other eyeshadows I talked about today. And that's it. That's my thoughts through all of these C-Beauty eyeshadows we tried today. And if you have any thoughts or anything that you are interested but you never tried, or anything, feel free to leave a comment, and I always reply a comment other than the comment that doesn't require a reply. Sometimes I just like, you know, put a like on the comment and I don't reply. But if you just ask something or it's a conversation type of thing, I always reply. So yeah, feel free to leave a comment if you have anything to say. And thank you very much for watching. Bye.